people of the internet. The apotheosis is upon us. This is the first video of our very special Year of Starkid.
Yay.
For those of you who might be new to the channel, or who might have tuned out when the channel went dead for a while and we were on a different channel before we came back, we have a tradition here where we do an annual Spring of Starkid every year. Team Starkid, of course, being the very popular theater group on the internet. And every spring we review what they've done over the course of the year, new musicals and other productions they've done. However, this year, 2019, happens to be the 10th anniversary of Team Starkid's founding back in 2009 with their original production of Harry Potter musical, which they put on while most of the original members were still at school at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. So in honor of this special 10th anniversary and the fact that in some manner or another Starkid is resurrecting a Harry Potter musical this year, we don't have details on it yet, but they should be forthcoming, we're going to celebrate not with a Spring of Starkid, but with a Year of Starkid. That's right. Once a month, every month, we are going to review a Starkid musical or some other portion aspect of Starkid. There are 11 musicals currently, so there'll be 1 month where we cover the tour, nationwide tours and some of the other things they've done over the course of that video. But we're going to review one thing every month to cover the entirety of Starkid's canon, if you will. We're going to go in reverse chronological order so that we end up ending the year with where we started at a Harry Potter musical, so that if they are going to be doing some kind of new production of it, a tour, whatever, we have time to see it and can talk about the new version compared to the old version and really encompass all that in the review.
Right.
With me is Marcus Shadow, aka Geoff.
Aye.
And so because we're doing this in reverse chronological order, it also lets us timely here in January review the newest Starkid musical, which came out just a few weeks ago on about a month ago, I should say, on Christmas Eve. And that is the 11th musical of the Starkid canon, if my math is correct. The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals.
Yes.
The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals was put on at Starkid's new home of Los Angeles, where they're doing most of their productions, at the Matrix Theater on Melrose Avenue. It ran from October 11th to November 4th of 2018 with a few different productions. It's a 2-hour show, including intermission. So we do have
first ever show under 3 hours.
Very first show under 2. They've had 2.5 ones.
Ah, okay.
But the first time they got under 2, so props to that. The book was written by the Lang brothers, as always, Nick and Matt Lang, with Nick Lang also serving as director. And
Yes.
Jeff Blim, who composed the music for The Trail to Oregon, did the music for this show as well.
And Lauren Lopez did all the choreography, and holy fuck was the choreography good in this thing.
Lauren Lopez did additional choreography, not all the choreography.
Really? Because when I looked on IMDb, she was the only one listed as choreographer.
Well, according to Team Starkid's own website, the choreographer is James Tolbert.
Fair enough.
No offense, I trust their own website over...
Fair.
Yeah. James Tolbert was also responsible for the choreography of a Harry Potter sequel and Twisted.
Cool. Good choreography all around.
Yes. So there you go. So, yes, they're all involved. Good things. June Sato returned as costume designer as always. Corey Lubowich, of course, did the scenic design. Brian Rosenthal did sound design, actually, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Everybody pitching in to help out there. Music direction was by Matt DeHaan. Lighting design, Sarah Petty. A lot of great people helping out here. Ileana Elroy for sound design and engineering as well.
Mm-hmm.
And stage manager Paul Gabriel. So there you go. A good cast in the background there.
Mm-hmm. And how about our primary cast?
Yes, the cast for the musical. The star of our musical is Starkid newcomer John Madison, playing Paul.
The guy who didn't like musicals.
He is Paul, the guy who didn't like musicals. Also in the show are Joey Richter as Ted, Lauren Lopez as Emma, Jamie Lynn Beatty as Charlotte, Jeff Blim as Sam, Corey Doris as Bill, newcomer Mariah Rose Faith as Zoe, and the always excellent returning Robert Mannion as Professor Higgins.
It should also be noted that everybody except for Madison, John Madison, actually played multiple characters.
Yeah.
The names you just listed were their primary characters, but they played like other secondary characters. And Geoff Blim actually had a couple, and IMDb actually lists like the other major character, because like Geoff Blim's other major character was McNamara, the army dude.
Yes, that is correct.
And Mariah Rose Faith, the other one is Zoe.
I said Zoe. That was her main.
Zoe. Okay, Alice is the other one then.
Okay, that's fair.
So yeah, so.
Yeah, anyway, we're also changing up our format. Normally we go song by song and just work our way through the musical, but we're going to do some categories this time and mix it up a little bit. And Geoff, I understand you have the categories.
I do? I was just throwing them out there, but okay.
Well, you're the one that wanted to do categories. I assumed you had them.
Yeah, we could do kind of like more of a movie review. I figured it'd be a little bit better.
Oh, by the way, for the record, to open up, if you have not seen this musical and you'd like to see it before you watch our review, it is available over on Team Starkid's YouTube channel. So be sure to go check that out, and be sure to follow them at Team Starkid on Twitter, Starkid Potter on Facebook, their original name, and they also have a Tumblr that they don't update that much. That's at the real Team Starkid, which of course makes them sound like the fake Team Starkid.
Are you going to put all that in the description below?
At some point.
Excellent. So we could start off talking about the big one. Let's talk about story. What did we think of the story and the writing of the guy who didn't like musicals? I will let you go first.
Okay, I figured you'd go first, but whatever. I like the premise. The premise of this musical is that we focus on a character of Paul, a guy who doesn't like musicals, who happens to work in an office, when a meteor strikes their small town of Hatchetfield, and the meteor has this effect of beginning to infect everyone in town with some kind of alien virus that forces them to sing and dance as if they are in a musical.
It doesn't infect them. It kills them and then brings them back to life. Effectively, it's a meteor that has a song and dance musical equivalent to the T-virus from from Resident Evil. You must be dead before you can come back to life and do the song and dance.
Yes, but the T-virus didn't outright kill you. This outright kills you and then resurrects you.
True. But that was the correction I was trying to make, is that it doesn't just infect them, it kills them first.
Yeah. So, there you go.
Or it just resurrects the dead, as we saw in one scene.
Right, it does that. So, and it's an interesting premise where once the infection starts spreading, we see a group of hero characters that work in Paul's office with him, trying to get away and figure out a way to save themselves, while at the same time trying to understand what's going on, and dealing with loved ones being infected and falling victim to this, and just the horrors of Hatchetfield as things devolve as the night goes on. So I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was a very unique and interesting premise for a musical. I think it worked very well for what they wanted it to do. And I just think it was really clever. And the jokes that they worked in as part of it, I think, worked well. What do you think?
I can mostly agree with that. I thought, like you, I thought it was an interesting premise. I find it interesting they always go back to aliens in their stories, but whatever. But I don't know. It was fun, which is also slightly different to majority of what they do. I mean, you have fun watching all their stuff, but a lot of their stuff is, I would say, tends to be on the heavier side. It tends to be really deep and really emotional, and this one was more just a fun romp kind of thing with some emotional bits and some deep bits thrown in, which I liked. Not sure I'm 100% on board with the ending.
It was an interesting choice to put the again, spoilers if you haven't seen it. The twist ending is that Paul does end up getting taken by everyone, and that Lauren's character Emma, who was Paul's love interest, is the only one who, by the end of this, has survived the virus. But then it seems like she's invariably going to be infected too. So the bad guys win, which is an interesting twist.
Yep, and the theory on how to stop them is false. You're wrong! Because Paul tries it, and it, as it turns out, indeed does not work. Yeah, I just thought it was weird that Lawrence character was the one who doesn't get infected. Like I've always felt that since it was called the guy who doesn't like musicals or who didn't like musicals, either he should be the one that gets away scot-free or he should be the last one infected. But maybe that's just me.
Well, technically speaking, because the musical ends before they grab Lauren, he is the last one infected.
No, because Lauren never gets infected.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He's the last one that gets infected.
Right, but what I meant by last one, I meant like last one of the entire cast. Like Lauren should have gotten infected first. Either he is literally the last person to be infected, or if someone's going to survive and not get infected, it should have been him. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Either way, I feel like it was a good twist because you didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And I think that added something special, given that this was sort of semi-horror themed, and that was new for Starkid. So I think the fact they put a twist in was really good because you didn't see that coming. Because most of their musicals do have a happy ending, and so the fact this one didn't was kind of a nice difference.
That is true. I can agree with that. I don't know. I just felt it was a little bit weird, but I enjoyed it. It was fun, and like I said, I like the premise. So let's talk about the acting, the cast.
Before you do that, can I also just point out, though, in the last show that was written by Geoff Blim, The Trail to Oregon, weren't you the one complaining about there being the deaths being cheapened because they kept being undone?
Undone. What do you mean undone?
And then there's 2 points in the movie where you think somebody's died, and then they either aren't dead or they get resurrected. And I feel like you were the one that complained about that when we reviewed that musical. Maybe it was Stacy. I'm not sure.
I might have, if only because if I recall that musical correctly, they had really emotional, touching songs and really great portrayals by the actors that tied into that death scene, only to have it not be. And it's just like, oh well, that just kind of cheapens that song.
Yeah, but in this case, they actually stuck through with it. It said, no, if you're infected, you're going to be infected. The good guys aren't going to get resurrected and win. And now you're complaining about that. It's like, make up your mind.
No, I never said anyone should be resurrected. I just said if anyone should have been the last one out, it should have been Paul, in my opinion, just because it's called the guy who didn't like musicals. But like I said, maybe that's just me.
Fair enough.
I'm not saying they should come back. I never said anyone should ever come back from being infected. They're fucking dead. And I'm glad they stuck to their guns with that. It's just, I don't know. It was just weird that it wasn't Paul at the end.
That was a twist. That was the idea. It's a twist.
There's another problem I have with the ending, but we'll get to that when we get to the music.
Okay. So, yeah, that was a good a nice look at the story there, and I think the story did its job, and obviously you had some flaws with it, and that's fair. What's our next category?
Next category, let's go with, even though there wasn't a lot to it, let's go with costume and set design.
Let's give credit where credit is due. Again, Corey Lubowitz, the standard Starkid set designer, did another good job by going with a minimalist approach, as they've done with a lot of recent Starkid shows, by having a few set pieces here and there and reusing them as much as possible to make different rooms and different scenes. And I thought that was really well done.
Absolutely. I also like the fact, and I don't think enough theater productions do this, and I thought it was a clever way to expand the limited room they had, because the theater they were in was not that big. And I like the fact that they used the crowd as part of the set. I thought that was clever.
Yeah, well, they've been doing that since Twisted.
Yeah, but not to this degree. Because they literally used the crowd as a darkened alleyway.
That's true.
And they had like interactions with the crowd and stuff, which they don't normally do to that level.
That is
within
true.
the production.
That is very true.
So I thought that was very clever. I thought Jun Saito did a great job with the costumes, especially Robert Mannion's costume for Higgins. That was awesome. That costume is great.
That was a very good costume.
Like his and like McNamara's costumes. I like the army costumes and the cop costumes. Those were pretty legit.
Yeah.
And the barista costumes, like the fucking Starbucks costumes, were awesome.
Yeah, they were accurate.
Completely what they were based on.
Yeah, no, totally. And that was the point. They did a good job.
Yeah. So let's go into. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, I agree. I think the costumes were very they fit the character. They fit the characters well, and I felt that they looked like outfits people would wear in the real world. They didn't look like they were, costumes. I think that helped, get across some of the realism of this world that is supposed to be taking place in.
Yeah. Also, am I the only one who, when I saw Joey in the in the homeless person costume, all I could think was, change. You got change.
A little bit, but we don't justify that channel's existence anymore. Moving on, next category.
So let's talk about the cast and the acting of the cast. Which I thought this was a great cast.
Yes.
I thought the newcomers were awesome.
They always are.
Indeed. I thought Mariah was just, she went for it, man. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah. Well, that Starkid is always very good with the performers they bring in and how talented they are. And it's always good to see new performers. I mean, that's been the case ever since it became sort of a tradition to start bringing in new performers. I mean, starting with Geoff Blim and Holy Musical Batman,
yeah.
Rachel for Twisted, and so on down, and Robert in Twisted as well, and so on down the line. So I think it's always been an established precedent that the new people appearing are always going to be a highlight of any given musical, and I think it's great to see that again.
Yeah, I just love that Mariah was not afraid to just fucking go for it.
No, not at all.
And John Madison, credit to him, it must have killed him to not be able to take part in any of the musical numbers until the end.
Yeah. But I'm sure that's why they cast him, because they needed somebody that could resist that urge and that could play it straight while all this was going on, and he did it perfectly.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And Robert Mannion, I mean, what can you say? It's great to see him in another production in kind of a major role, and holy fuck, he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and that's great that he got to be in a more major role as opposed to some of the side things he was doing in Twisted the last time we saw him.
Yep. Oh, Robert Mannion. His thing, which we'll get to in just a moment when we start talking about the music, best part of the entire production for me. Oh my lord.
Most people generally agree from what I've read.
And again, talking about just going for it, balls to the wall. Like, he went for it from all fucking angles, from the acting angle to the music angle to the, I'm going to use my regular singing voice to, I'm going to sing super high pitched. And you're just like, what the hell, dude?
That is what he does.
Now, the only issue I had, and I don't know if it was because of the actor or if it was because of the characters and how they were written, and it's Geoff Blim.
Okay.
And I've been thinking about it because I've been thinking back to the roles he's had in Starkid. And I've kind of come to perhaps a conclusion or realization. I'm not sure. But in this production, I wasn't particularly overly fond of his characters. And it's because his characters in this one, pretty much all of them were kind of simplistic, and he played them up for laughs, which is fine. He's a comedic actor and whatnot. But historically, and this production is no different. When the Lang brothers write something, Nick and Matt Lang write something, all their characters, or at least all the main characters, right? They have depth to them. They have a pathos. You can have emotional moments. They can be funny. But at the end of the day, as I've said before in previous reviews, and I'll continue to say, their productions have heart. They always do. And again, this one is no exception. You just kind of have to look for it with this one. And with Geoff Blim's characters, even the ones that kind of stuck around, the big notable one being Sam, which was the jerk-ass police officer husband of Charlotte, Jamie Lynn's, I think they were married. Jamie Lynn's character.
They were married, but their marriage was having some problems.
Yeah, he was kind of the main character. And even with that, it was almost like he was there to play up the laughs, which I felt was unnecessary because Starkid as a troupe is just funny. They all play up their characters for laughs. And I guess to me, playing the characters up overtly for laughs seemed a little out of place, and it was kind of grating. And as I alluded to earlier, I was thinking back to the roles he's had, Sweet Tooth and the father in Trail to Oregon, and Aragog in Senior Year, and Prince Ali over there, Aladdin in Aladdin, and Twisted. And I kind of realized that when he plays a side character, it's generally played for last. But when he's kind of a main character, he plays it more like you would expect Starkid to play it. That's why I was a little surprised when he has a main character too in this production, but it's all played for laughs. And that ties into his music, which, if you don't mind, we can go into that as well, which is the one issue I had with music. And if you remember, when we were first talking about it after we watched it, I said that the music felt like not smooth. It wasn't cohesive.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
The sound sounded kind of disjointed a little bit. And I think I know why, and I think it's Blim. And I don't know if it's directly his fault.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems to me that in a small ensemble like this, when people have to harmonize with Blim, they can't do it. And I don't know if it's because Blim is just unharmonizable or if it's because he doesn't harmonize with everybody else. Yet, that's when he is the lead, because he had to be the lead vocal in a lot of these songs.
Yeah.
And it's those songs, in my opinion, that grated on me the most. That I was just like, oh, it doesn't feel cohesive. It doesn't. It feels like it's not polished. But if you look back at his history, he's had a lot of good songs, but that's because he's never been the lead in them. Even going back to Holy Musical Batman, when playing Sweet Tooth, while he was the featured actor, the featured singer, he was not the lead. And a lot of what he did was like kind of a rap thing. And you'll notice he has his little solo moment, but then when he has to incorporate with everyone else, it's almost like he takes a step back and blends in as like a background singer instead of a lead singer at that point. And everything that he does, it's either, he's either the featured like that, or he sings it pretty much solo with like some backup singers, or he'll sing in like a duet, or like a triplet, like in Twisted, which worked out well because you don't have that many people that's got to sync up with him that he's got to sync to. And also, for some reason, he and Rachel Soglin like work so well together musically. I don't know how that happens, but they are excellent as a duet pair. But like with Aragog, he's the lead in that, but he's also pretty much the only one because it's basically him and a bunch of backup singers, which is why that kind of works. But when all of a sudden he's the lead singer in an ensemble song where they're not the backup singers, there are other parts to the same song, for whatever reason, it feels a little disjointed. And I don't know why that is, but I got that feeling every time a song came up where he was the lead singer, and I was just like, this doesn't feel polished. It's weird. But the other songs were phenomenal. They were so good.
It's an interesting observation.
Yeah, I'll let you go ahead and talk about that right now, whether you agree or disagree or not.
It's an interesting observation, and given that Geoff Blim wrote the music in this, I'm kind of surprised that he wouldn't be able to harmonize. But you're right. It might just be that his style. A lot of the people in his production were not accustomed to his style. Because you have to realize, though, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't be, because 3 of the people in this show were in Oregon with him.
Yeah.
So, unless it was just the new people having trouble harmonizing, and even then, Mannion was in Twisted with him. Granted, they didn't share a lot of scenes, but Geoff Blim was side characters here and there for some of them.
Yeah.
It just feels weird to me why they wouldn't be able to harmonize with him when it's worked in other situations.
But I said with him as the lead, and that I think that's the key. Because even in Trail to Oregon, he was never the lead in any of the ensemble songs. Like, the biggest ensemble song was Naked in a Lake at the end, and Lauren was the lead. He wasn't the lead vocal. And in fact, he plays saxophone for like a quarter of that song. So
yeah. But he was the lead vocal for the Grind.
Fair. But also, I point to you, that goes back to my other point. Trail to Oregon, he was paired up with Rachel Soglin, who he works very well with vocally. So that might have kind of evened it out. Because she's the only anomaly between Oregon and anything else he's ever done aside from Twisted. I think that's why Twisted and Oregon work so well, because he had Soglin to play off of and to actually be able to do that. Whereas everything else he's ever done, Soglin's not been a part of the production. I will also point out the music in this production is a different genre of music than Starkid usually does.
That too.
Because this was more like show tuning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I really like the songs in this production. I thought they were good. You know, did I like every song? No, but you're probably not going to like every song on in any given show. There's going to be some you don't like, and I can understand that. I will say, if that is how you feel about the Geoff Flim harmonizing situation, I'd be interested to have you listen to the Scratch Track album and see if you what you think of that version.
Absolutely. Yeah, I loved the opening song, The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals. I thought that was great.
Yep.
I thought the song of the entire production was Robert Mannion's fucking off the wall, insane bonker solo song, where Lim and Corey kind of came in at the end. But that was an amazing, amazing song. An amazing bit. That the entire choreography for that.
That is true.
The one song, and this is where my disappointment will come in, and why I was talking about the ending earlier, is that final song. My disappointment was that we never get a song in this entire production where the entire cast sings it, and that kind of disappointed me.
That's true.
Because in every Starkid production, without fail, there's at least one song where the entire cast sings it. And oftentimes it is the final song because it's like the song that takes out the show.
Right.
And not one song do we have the entire cast singing. I was like, oh, I want the entire ensemble song. I want the Back to Hogwarts. Damn it.
Well, this is something new.
It is. Though I do have to say, in terms of the ending, I have to give credit where credit is due. Lauren Lopez, fucking genius move. And I don't know if she decided that on the fly or if that was part of the script. But where she's literally the only one who stays in character through the ending.
Yeah.
I thought that was genius.
That was good.
Why are you applauding? And they like literally have to pull her off the stage. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, that was funny. But Lauren is incredibly talented as on the comedy side and the musical side, so I'm not surprised at all.
Absolutely. Also, Mariah's voice is just wow. Where did they come up with these singers?
Oh yeah, well, I mean that's the beauty. You know, they went to school in the theater. They're working in the theater industry. They're in New York, L.A., Chicago. They're meeting these theater performers. So they know these people. These are the people that they're interacting with. So they find these talented people who come in to do these shows.
Yeah. Am I the only one who wishes Rosenthal at least made one appearance as he was like there and doing shit behind the scenes?
I can understand why, though. I mean, he's got other stuff going on, and he's has appearances and other things, so I can understand why they want to let some of the other people shine.
I suppose. Are there any other areas that I missed that we should talk about before we wrap it up and go to the final thoughts?
So
I didn't really write these down, so.
No, I know. Well, let's talk about this for a second. I mean, we talked about the music. Let's talk about the choreography.
Sure. Damned good choreography.
It is, and I liked how they worked the choreography in such a way that it felt natural, like people who weren't in the theater group were suddenly choreographing a dance together. Like it was coming out of nowhere, and I think they really smoothly worked that in where the choreography didn't make it seem obvious at first until the choreography fully kicked in. So I think they did a good job of having it subtly start up in each of the times where it was happening and then fully kick in. Same way some of the songs started subtly starting up. And I also like how they played on the different, how they built up some of the characters over the course of time, depending on how well you got to know them, and how each of them had a resolution of their arc relevant to what was going on. Charlotte was having trouble with her marriage, ended up getting taken down by her husband, the police officer Sam, who had already been taken. We had Corey Doris's character, Bill, who was in the situation of his somewhat estranged daughter, who was living with his wife over in Clydesdale, but who had stayed behind to visit her girlfriend who lived in town, who her father didn't approve of because she was a druggie, and how he ended up having to deal with them at school, and that was what eventually took him down, was dealing with that. So they built up the arcs, and each of the arcs resolved itself over the course of the night. I thought that was really well done in terms of the plotting of the show. To
The
talk about that a
pacing.
little bit, yeah, the pacing.
Yeah.
I thought they did a really good job with that as well.
In terms of choreography, and again, I don't know if this was planned or not, so credit to Lauren Lopez. I can't remember what song it was, but it was, they had chairs out there, and at the end she's like, should I bring this chair too? Yes. Okay. I
Yeah,
thought that was a brilliant way to get the chair off the stage.
that was good. It worked. Yeah, I was very impressed. I was very impressed with that. They did it very well.
But yeah, back to what you were saying, this production was very well paced. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
And the plotting of the arcs, and that's what I meant when I was talking earlier during the writing about how when Nick and Matt Lang write stuff, it's deliberate, but it's deep. There's always deep stuff. There's layers to what they write, and
yeah,
layers to the characters.
very much so.
And you see that with all the characters, and I spoke earlier about pathos and about emotionality and that sort of thing, and they're always being hard. And it didn't click with me until the second viewing, and then I really thought about it, where that actually is. And you would think the character you're supposed to connect with, the heart of it, is Paul. It's not. The heart of this production, the character that, in my opinion, is the deepest character of the entire production, and it has the most character depth to him, is Professor Higgins. And I think Robert Mannion portrays it beautifully. Because on the surface, he's just this kind of insane nutball, Doc Brown kind of wannabe nut job biologist that people don't take seriously. He's kind of a conspiracy theorist and stuff like that. And people don't take him seriously. And so he kind of lives as a hermit.
I've been prepping for years for this exact thing. This exact thing. This exact thing.
Yeah. But then as you discover, as he's discovering what this is, you discover there's layers to him. You discover he's had this unrequited desire and love of musical theater, and it's always what he's wanted to do. But at least I get the feeling that he's not been able to do it because he's been ridiculed for that. You find out that what he wants more than anything else are his friends whom he lost. They're apparently dead, and they're of course resurrected by this meteor and stuff. And based on the costumes, I don't know if this was deliberate or not, but based on the costumes that more Jeff Lynne was wearing, because he had the Letterman's jacket, and Corey Doris, what I got from it is that his two friends died in high school, and so he hasn't seen his friends in years. And the way he reacts, he talks about them and then reacts to them showing up. That gives me another layer to the Professor Hitchens character, and that's where the pathos and the heart comes in, where you get that not only does he want to do all this musical stuff, but the thing he wants more than anything else are his friends, that he misses his friends and that they were taken way too young, and they were, and maybe a little bit of survivor's guilt, that of the three of them, he's the only one that survived whatever incident took them from him. And so with all those layers and the way Robert Mannion portrays the character, you kind of understand the character. You kind of sympathize with him a little bit. At least I did with Higgins. Of, wow, that's kind of dark. And it's just like, dude, you had a fucked up life. I'm sorry.
Yeah, totally. I think the other interesting consideration to give to this production is that there's something I don't think you've thought about that has made this production unique compared to any other Starkid show.
Okay.
We've had shows that have been done by Nick and Matt Lang before with various artists, doing the music and lyrics.
Yes.
We've had Jeff Blim do shows before, like Trail to Oregon, where he was basically the brains behind that entire show.
Mm-hmm.
What might have also, in this instance, brought a bit of that feeling of awkwardness and unpolished to the show to you is the fact that this is the first time in history we've had to combine the writing of Nick and Matt Lang with the musical stylings of Jeff Blim.
That is entirely possible.
we haven't really done that before. He's helped out with some songs here and there and some things, but this is the first time that Geoff has scored an entire show that has been written by the Langs. The
Yeah,
last time Geoff scored a show was his show that he had written himself. The whole thing was him,
true.
and he's never written for the Langs. Have always written their own stuff and either written their own music or had either Darren, AJ, or Clark Baxter, sir, and the Talk Fine work on the music.
Or Meredith.
Yeah, or Meredith. And so this is the first time we've had Geoff Blim's music combined with the Lang's writing, and that might have been also why this had a very unique feel, where it seemed to have an interesting combination of the Lang's undertone of emotionality and depth to the characters, with Geoff's over-the-top comedy stylings in the music.
Yes.
And I think that might be why it was kind of a new thing and why it felt a little bit unpolished almost, because it was a new dynamic we had not seen. And I think given that it was this new dynamic, I think it was a very interesting juxtaposition, and I think it worked really well. I think it was really enjoyable to watch. I think that now that they've done it once, they can look back on it and say, okay, this is how we combined this first time. Here's how we can polish this and make this better the next time we put these two aspects together.
And refine it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So I was thinking, Anu, what are your final thoughts on the production overall?
Upon the second viewing, I think it was a very good production. I had fun with it. As soon as I start to, after seeing it the second time, I was able to start peeling back the layers of nuance and stuff and actually understand it and the characters better.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do with all their stuff, because so many layers to the stuff, especially when Nick's the one writing it. It's a very good production. It's not without its flaws, as we discussed. I think if they refine the pairing of the Lang brothers and Geoff Blim, I think whatever they do next, either the next one or two down the line, could be very good. Very, very good. I think this production, while it's good on its own, I don't think is up to Starkid standards, but I don't think it's terrible either.
Yes, but I make a counterpoint to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of fans do, and I do to some extent. You hold Starkid to a very high standard.
I do.
And I think that's because they've done a lot of really good stuff, but it's not that they haven't tried new things now and again. It hasn't been rough. I mean, Annie came off that way very much so with the whole we're going to have the band singing, not the actors thing. So this is one of those situations where they're trying a new combination of things. We're going to see how it works. It's a new experience. We have to take it for what it is. Yeah, we can compare it to the previous, but we also have to take it on its own legs and say, okay, does this stand on its own as a musical? And I feel that it really does. I feel like it's got a great combination of the horror aspects, the comedy, and the music to bring together into a unique theatrical experience.
I agree. The other thing, too, I think that maybe lent itself to a little of the unpolishedness is I felt the story itself wasn't very polished. Like you said, I thought it was a great concept. I thought a lot of what they had in there in terms of the characters was really, really well done. But compared to pretty much everything else they've ever written for Starkid, this one felt the least complete, if that makes sense. And that might have been by design, I'm not sure. But it just, I don't know, it was just weird, between the misses with the music, Geoff Blim's acting, which was still great, mind you. He still did a great job in this production, as he always does. But there was some moments that I was just like, really? And I don't know, just the story, the story just kind of didn't do it for me like the other ones did. It didn't feel like it had the beginning, middle, end kind of thing. It was like there was still some questions left unanswered. Usually with these, I don't have questions afterwards. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But this one, it felt like they didn't quite finish it. That's the feeling I got with it.
Right, but I counter your point on that, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's by design, because let me ask if you've ever taken any given a horror movie and felt like it was finished.
That is true. That is very
That's
true.
the idea. That's the horror genre poking its head in there, because that's the nature of a horror movie, is that you're kind of thrown into a situation, you got to feel it out, figure out what's going on, and by the end, yeah, there might be a resolution to the main plot, but there's going to be a lot of other shit going on that you don't really know about. That's what lends itself well to horror sequels. But this,
right.
I think that's just the nature of the genre, and you're just not used to that genre combining into Starkid because they haven't really done horror before.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, and I don't watch a lot of horror, but even in the horror movies I've seen, I'm still not left with questions at the end. And maybe that's just the thing is with Starkid, I'm not used to still having questions, being like, well, that kind of didn't make sense. Or, you know, really that, this, or the other? It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Sure.
Let me admit this. Realize with what happened at the end with Paul turning out to be infected and Emma being the one who survives, you have to realize it's not your average, okay, beginning, middle, and end. Here's a resolution to the main thing horror movie. This is a Shyamalan horror movie.
That's not necessarily a good thing.
No, I'm just saying that's the kind of horror movie it is, where the intent is to kind of make you think you know what's going on, and then at the very end have a twist revelation that lends itself to, oh god, this is something totally new that opens itself to a sequel. In this case, there probably won't be a sequel, but the idea was supposed to be the twist ending that could have opened it in that direction where you didn't see it coming.
So what you're saying is the whole theme of this is, what the twist?
Kind of, yeah.
That's fair. Like I said, I didn't think it was bad by any means. And maybe it just comes down to personal taste.
And it might. And certainly in theater, a lot of times that's the case.
Because I would certainly classify like Firebringer under this too. Of it was good. Do I think it's up to quote unquote Starkid standards? No, but I didn't think it was bad.
Okay.
But then we'll get to that when we get to Firebringer. But
definitely. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
Yeah.
If you were going to give a numerical score to the guy who didn't like musicals,
out of
whatever scale you want to use, take your pick.
I would probably give this a 7.5 out of 10. I liked it. I thought it was good.
Okay.
But it was not without its flaws.
Okay, I can see that. That's fair. I go a little higher. I would give it an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10, only because I think it's a good, solid B Starkid show. It's not quite theatrically on a certain level, but that's because it wasn't meant to be a theatrical production per se. It was meant to be more of a comedy production with music worked in. And I think that's the other aspect. This was not focused on the music. It was focused on the comedy. So I think that's another aspect that goes into this. But I feel like it did its job. It was funny. It was entertaining. The music is good. Does it take a little getting used to if you're more accustomed to other Starkid shows? Yeah, a little bit. But I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it I think it does what it needs to do in introducing you to some new genres and some new attempts at Starkid to expand its horizons into different kinds of theater. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was on it's on the shorter end of the spectrum, which is always a good thing. And it's totally worth it for Robert Mannion alone. He's so good.
Yep.
Like, dude, do more stuff. You're so good.
Yep. All right, then. Well, Geoff, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely.
I am James Phoenix. And stay tuned for the month of February as we work our way back into the Starkid canon. We will be reviewing the Starkid show right before this, and that being Starkid's caveman-inspired show, Firebringer. That was from 2016. So definitely stay tuned for our look at that. And, of course, all the other reviews coming up over the course of the year. If you want to figure out about where we're going to be, just backtrack the number of musicals by the number of months, and you'll figure out which is going to be each month. There will be sometime around August, September-ish. We will be taking that one extra break month to cover the tours and some of the other things that were done around that time in Starkid, right around the Starship era or so, and then going a little bit forward to the Apocalypse tour. So we'll be talking about some of those things as well. So stay tuned for all of that. If you have any comments for us, please let us know. Follow us at the XPound. I'm at James Phoenix XP. He's at the number 4 Ever Degenerate.
Also, don't forget to comment and subscribe.
No, we're not that kind of YouTuber. Don't do that.
And hit the likes. Like this video.
No, we're not those kind of YouTubers. No, we're not doing that shit.
Why not?
Because we're doing this for fun, not to fucking promote ourselves. We're not making any money on this.
No, but if people like our stuff, why not, right?
I mean, they're welcome to do it. I'm just saying we're not going to be those kind of assholes that do that. Anyway, So stay tuned for all that great Starkid stuff coming up. And if you have comments, let us know what you think. And of course, again, be sure to follow Team Starkid at Team Starkid on Twitter, Starkid Potter on Facebook. Check out them on all the other social medias. Check
Go to
out their
their
Tumblr.
website.
Of course, go to their website, teamstarkid.com. Has information on all their musicals, all the varying the tours that they've gone on, all the different comedy shows, productions, other things that they've done is all on there. Information about cast members in the different shows, people that have worked with them, all that good stuff. Be sure to check them out.
And this year, they're going back.
Yes, Very Potter musical is returning in some capacity this year. We will discuss that once more information has been revealed. Until then, we'll see you next time, folks. The apotheosis is upon us.